Hello and welcome to this video looking at compiling the project under Windows, this simple Flappy Robin under Windows with the C++ version obviously. This video has come about because somebody, Miss Sleepy Fox, in part 4 of the video where we start adding the Robin class, came across some problems, and quite rightly came across some problems involving the compilation, in the sense that it didn't compile, and was nice enough to post a couple of screenshots. One of them's here. Let us find a better one. Here it is, with the error down here about initializing the constant here, the start speed y. And unfortunately I can't find the other screenshot. I thought there was one in the comment section where it was basically saying there was an error with the constructor, saying there was a problem with this line here. So I'm just going to talk through those two problems, and I'm also in this video going to go through some other problems that will occur in the project as a whole, because on my Windows PC I've actually been through the code and compiled it and made sure I know where a couple of the differences are. So the first one is to deal with this constructor problem here. Now, later on in the project this won't actually occur as a problem, but what the problem is essentially is we are saying here that we're constructing a new object, but we haven't provided what's called a default constructor. Now, to be honest, I was under the impression with C++ that if you didn't, then it's called an implicit declaration and the compiler does that for you. And basically there's nothing being initialized inside there, it just creates the object. And in fact, CRobin is subclass from public of CCSprite, which already has an empty virtual constructor inside it, and then I think that inherits from CCNode. I can't remember exactly, but that also does. So I was pretty sure you don't actually need to declare it an empty constructor, and in fact in one of my C++ reference books I used, I double checked, and an example there with classes and inheritance, the examples there didn't either. So despite that, there is an error, so the way to get around this error is actually quite simple. It's simply to provide a definition. So you would say CRobin, open and close brackets, and simply do this, and oops, I need a capital R, and if I just save now and build, and this should then build OK. An error's appeared there, I hope because of the small r, but yes, it's all build OK, and now you've got essentially your empty constructor, so the compiler knows what it is. The next problem came, if I just go back to the screenshot here, because the code I'm using now is the code at sort of the end of the series. The next problem came with this declaration of the start speed y, which is here, constant float start speed y equals 300. Now, it changes later on to be a variable anyway, but let's make a constant float here, and we'll just call it mynum. And the problem was you're not allowed to do this. With some certain standards of C++, and in fact I think with the stricter standards you're not allowed to. So what you need to do is you actually need to initialize this in the constructor. So you would put a colon here, and then mynum, and a colon, then mynum, and 200. You don't need that first opening bracket, like so, and then just take off this. And this does exactly the same thing. So I just save and build. This should then build again. Okay, and indeed it does. So that's how you deal with that problem, and you might, I can't remember, during the series come across the same problem with the constructor also as you build the tube class and the cloud class. I can't remember, but that should deal with that problem anyway. A slightly bigger problem will come later on though when you start to use scheduling. So you'll see down here in the code, and again don't worry if you've not got to the end of the series already, this is relevant all the way through. If I just go, we've got, for example here, we get something called a schedule selector, which simply says I want to call this function re-enable game over after 1 second. Now technically, strictly, we should actually have a delta time inside here to say how long it took for that to be called. So you'll need to add, for the Windows compilation, a float delta time inside here, which means of course then inside the definition in hello world scene.h, also on re-enable after game over, we need a float delta time. And you'll need to do this for all of the functions which are called by schedule selector. And I'm only going to do this for this one here and this on the Mac for an example, but under Windows there are 2 or 3 of them throughout the program, throughout the series. Every time you come across it, you'll need to add this float delta time as an argument to the function. The other thing you'll need to do is you'll have at some point a call function action, where we call a function once an action is completed. So in this case it's the tubes moving. And again here, strictly we should actually, we're calling the reach destination here, we should actually inside reach destination have an argument, and that will be CCNode and a pointer to sender to say what the sender was of this function, which node sent this function. We don't actually need that inside our code, but you need to put that as the argument for it to compile under the Windows compiler, or indeed a stricter compiler than this Apple C++ compiler. So that means, of course, in ctube.h then this will drop inside here like so. Now I can build that, and that changes actually absolutely no running of the application, but it's something you'll need to do. So in summary then, let me just off screen actually bring up Text Wrangler, and I'm just going to go new, and I'm just going to write a tiny little summary in here just so you remember what you need. In fact, let me just bring back the code in ctube.cpp. So with CCCallFuncN then, let's copy this and put this in here. Reach destination needs CCNode pointed to sender as an argument. So that's the first thing there. Then we want the schedule selector. I know I'm labouring the point here, but I just want to make sure it's clear. If we have the schedule selector here, just copy this, go back into Text Wrangler. And here we want to say that the function re-enable after game over needs float delta time as an argument. And in fact, let's make this a bit cleaner and do this like this. And last but not least, if error due to no constructor with empty brackets, then simply declare, for example, CRobin empty brackets and then the squiggly brackets like so in the public part of the header. Okay, that's very silly to write out like this, but it's just so that you can see it all in one little summary here. And that should all be all you need to do. Last but not least, constant float mynum equals 300. What we would do then is make constant float mynum semicolon, and inside the constructor here then we would just put a colon, whoops, and 300 like so, and everything should compile. So that's it then for this video, and like I said, I went everywhere inside the project where there was the schedule selector and made sure that I put the float delta time inside all the arguments, and then for the call function n I made sure that I had the CCNode pointer to sender, and then the project compiled and ran on my Windows computer anyway without any errors. So if you've got any other comments or anything like that, or questions or problems with it compiling, then let me know and I'll answer them underneath in the comments. Hopefully there aren't too many, and I apologise if that's caused you any problems or heartache or time loss in following the project, and thanks for watching.